And we begin this morning with President Trump saying that he intends to nominate William Barr as his next attorney general. My first guest this morning has pledged to do everything in his power to make sure Barr is confirmed. Joining me right now is Republican Senator from South Carolina, Sen Graham. He sits on the Senate Judiciary, Armed Services, and Budget Committees. And Senator, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
What is the likelihood that William Barr gets confirmed as the next AG, sir?
Unless there's something really strange, 100%. He's been confirmed 3 times. He's been the former Attorney General for Bush 41, the Deputy Attorney General in charge of the criminal division, and each time he was confirmed by voice vote. There's never been a recorded vote because he's that highly qualified.
Well, I mean, at this point, what do we know about William Barr other than that he was the AG for H.W. Bush, and also his thoughts on the Mueller probe? I mean, what do you think his first point of his agenda will be, Senator, given the fact that this Mueller probe has been going on for 2 years, and most people don't really understand where Robert Mueller is going?
Well, I hope the Mueller probe is over by the time it gets confirmed. This has been going on for 2 years. I hope they'll wrap this thing up. But one of the first questions will be asked of him, will you support Mr. Mueller's ability to complete the probe? And I'm sure he'll say yes. But the idea of looking into the 2016 election completely makes sense to me. You're going to talk to me in a minute about the FISA warrant process used in 2016 against Carter Page and other people based on a dossier paid for by the Democratic Party, prepared by a foreign agent that's completely, to this day, still unverified. We're going to look into everything that happened in 2016, not just Trump, if I'm chairman.
Well, let's talk a bit about that, because, of course, we know that we had that high-profile testimony on Friday of Jim Comey in front of the House Judiciary, as well as the Oversight Committees. And Comey used the words, "I don't remember," 72 times. He said, "I don't know," 167 times. "I don't recall," another 8 times. So it doesn't sound like he gave all that much information. What's your reaction to the Comey testimony?
Well, my biggest reaction was he made a statement after he testified that the FISA warrant process, basically to look into that would be sort of a joke. I don't think it's a joke at all that a warrant was issued based on a document paid for by a political party, prepared by a foreign agent that's unverified, to basically surveil a member of a presidential campaign. That's not funny to me. I want to know how that happened and the role he played. So there's a lot to look at when it comes to FISA oversight, and I intend to do that really early on.
So will there be accountability? I mean, some of the comments in terms of what Comey admitted, he talked about the unverified information submitted to the FISA court. Congressman Ratcliffe said, "Do you recall that on numerous occasions you, in your capacity as the FBI director, referred to the Steele dossier as salacious and unverified?" Mr. Comey says, "Yes, I don't know that. I was referring to all of it." Mr. Ratcliffe says, "But again, your characterization of it was that it was unverified, even though you had it verified to the court." Mr. Comey says, "What I understand by verified is we then try to replicate the source information so that it becomes FBI investigation and our conclusions rather than a reliable source. That's what I understand it, the difference to be, and that work was not completed by the time I left in May 17. So he basically admits here then, Senator, that yes, they brought information to the FISA court that was unverified, and they ended up getting a wiretap warrant to spy on a member of the Trump campaign, Carter Page.
Well, I hope that bothers people. It certainly bothers me. Here's the question that I'm going to ask. To this day, is the dossier verified? Are the allegations in that dossier, have they been verified to this day? It's my understanding they have not. And this was the source of the warrant, and it was renewed 4 times. And you got the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein involved in the renewal process. How could a document prepared by a foreign agent, paid for by the Democratic Party and the Clinton campaign, make it so far through the legal process and nobody threw a flag? That bothers me greatly. What is a counterintelligence investigation versus a criminal investigation? And what are the rules of surveilling a campaign of a major party nominee? All this is very important. Bill Barr should make it through, overwhelmingly should be confirmed, unless politics regarding Trump have completely destroyed the Senate? I don't know the answer to that question, but I do know this, that President Trump nominated the most qualified person available to him. This man has been confirmed 3 times by a voice vote. And when it comes to how this committee will look at 2016, we're going to look at everything, including the FISA warrant process.
So just to be clear, you are going to be looking at everything, and we're expecting you to be the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee.
You know, I hope so. I think that's the plan. We'll see next year.
All right. Let me move on and ask you a bit about the CIA information of Mr. Khashoggi, Jamal Khashoggi's murder. We know what the CIA has been saying, and it's not exactly in step with what the administration has been saying in terms of whether or not the Crown Prince ordered this hit. Your reaction to what you heard from the CIA, sir?
It's the most brilliant briefing I've ever received in my time in Congress. You had 2 analysts that walked us through the MBS, the Crown Prince's focus on Mr. Khashoggi for about 2 years. This operation was very sophisticated. The person in charge of executing the operation is MBS's right-hand man. There is no doubt by any senator who received this briefing that MBS was complicit in the murder of Mr. Khashoggi. It's not just this dissident he's gone after. He's gone after others, renditions. People have been captured in other countries, brought back to Saudi Arabia because they've been critics in these countries. He put the Lebanese prime minister under house arrest in the most bizarre episode I've seen in 20 years.
But what are you going to do about it?
I mean, and here's my take.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it?
We're going to label him MBS. Okay. Well, we're going to label him complicit. We're going to have a vote in the Senate saying that MBS was complicit in the murder of Mr. Khashoggi. I'm never going to support any more arms sales to Saudi Arabia. MBS, the Crown Prince, is a wrecking ball. I think the guy's crazy. Who in their right mind would lure somebody at a consulate in Turkey and have them killed in such a brutal manner, believing you could get away with it? So my concern is, under this guy's leadership, if we transfer weapons to Saudi Arabia, he'll turn around and give it to the Russians and the Chinese. There's a huge backlash growing in a bipartisan manner against our relationship with Saudi Arabia as long as MBS is the face of it. It's a strategically important relationship, but not at all cost.
All right. Well, we'll have to watch that because we know Iran is the real bad actor in the neighborhood, and the U.S. was counting on the Saudis to be unified against the terrorists out of Iran.
I'm not.
Okay.
Let me put it this way. I want to be very blunt with you. If it weren't for the United States, they'd be speaking Farsi in about a week in Saudi Arabia. Their military can't fight out of a paper bag. They give us 9% of our oil imports. We need them a lot less than they need us. So I don't buy this idea. You've got to hook up to a murderous regime, a thug like MBS to protect America from Iran. Quite the opposite. I think by hooking up with him, we hurt our ability to govern the region.
All right. Well, we'll be watching that. Let me turn over to the agenda in 2019 because we know Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are going to be meeting with the president on Tuesday to talk about the spending bill and the border wall funding. Why can't the Senate get on board with the president's border wall funding, sir?
Listen to this. The incoming Speaker of the House has said building a wall along our southern border is immoral. What are you looking at, Nancy Pelosi? Look at the caravan. Look at the charge against the border. Look at the caravans that are to come. Look at the holes in our border security. So here's the problem. You got the Democratic leader to be in the House calling border security a wall component immoral. If I'm President Trump Tuesday, I would tell Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer that we're going to build a wall where it makes sense. If I were the president, I would dig in and not give in on additional wall funding. I'd want the whole $5 billion because the caravan is a game changer. 1.6 is available to the president. He wants 5. And after the caravan, if you don't see the need for additional border security, you're just not paying much attention. So, Mr. President, dig in, do not give in when it comes to the wall.
But isn't it the Senate who's stopping this? I mean, every time we ask congressmen, they say it's passed. We've got the money in the House. It's the Senate.
Well, you're going to have the Speaker of the House who will be in charge next year. What about next year? So here's what's happening in the Senate. We need 60 votes to get $5 billion. If I were the president, I would tell the Democrats, I want $5 billion for wall security for border security, including a wall, because we need it from the threats we're facing, this caravan and others to follow. And I'd put DACA on the table. There's 700,000 young people who came here on the average age of 6, have got no place to go. They're in the DACA program. If I were the president, I'd say, I want 2 years of wall funding, and I'll give legal status to the DACA recipients.
Yeah.
That's a good deal for the country. And let's just see what happens. But the president is in a good spot here. He needs to dig in and not give in when it comes to wall funding, and put DACA on the table and see what Nancy Pelosi says then.
I believe Nancy Pelosi said she doesn't want anything attached to DACA, but we'll see. We're going to have Congressman Kevin McCarthy coming up, who will soon be the minority leader, and we'll ask him about that as well. But, Senator, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Lindsey Graham.